and so much to digest, and so much beauty and touching stories. Thank you, everyone, so far who's shared their hearts and their gifts with us. Our next guest is a woman who has held the torch passionately for these past years. And my journey with all of this began with in 2015, really, when I started to connect quite a few dots, and it was seeing the launch of 5G, 5G was launched in 2015. Can't remember the man's name now, but it was seeing that launch which really woke me to that there was something very disturbing happening, and I couldn't believe that it could really happen. But there's so much evidence. I mean, they're not hiding it when you look, it's all happening. So so Claire Edwards is a woman who has passionately been speaking out and holding the torch to help connect the dots around this technology for many years now. And she was working at the UN and challenged about the 5G that was being installed there at the UN, and later has just kept that flame alive. So I'm going to pass us over to Claire. Claire, if you unmute yourself, then we will be able to hear you and see you. Thank you.
Thank you. So much has been said tonight, so many insights. I can really identify with so much of what has been said. And I have to say that when Carolyn sang that Celtic song, I felt very much the same as Katana. I realised that I channel my emotions into my work, and I sort of work flat out because there's just so much to be done, and you never stop to grieve. And when I heard that song, I just couldn't stop crying, because if there's anything that describes what we're going through, it's that picture, the scream, Edvard Munch. Because I think what we're facing here is so enormous that words can't encompass it. And last year I had a channeled reading, and during this reading, obviously I've gone down a rabbit hole for a number of years, but particularly in the last 3 years, as I've learned more and more about what's really been going on and what really are the intentions of what's going on right now. So I had this channeled reading last year, and guidance said, it's much worse than you think it is. And I laughed and I said, oh no, that's not possible. That's not possible, because I know how bad this is. Well, I was wrong, because I didn't know. And all the time I'm falling further and further down that rabbit hole. And really, I don't think it's possible in words to describe the threat, because this threat just goes beyond anything. You know, the threat of death is one thing, but the threat of zombification, the threat of losing your consciousness, the threat of effectively no longer being human, you know. This threat is so cosmic and so all-encompassing that it's actually impossible to describe it to people. You have to kind of come to that realization. And so last week I was reading a NATO document, for example, on cognitive warfare. And so this goes some way to describing something of the threat that we're facing, because this document was written as a series of 3 scenarios, fictional scenarios. So this was their way of getting across some conception of what this intended future, I mean, I'm not even going to say it's a possible future, it's an intended future. So we're not just talking dystopia, we're talking, you know, take Orwell and Huxley and multiply by 1,000,000. You might come somewhere near it. So this would be a world in which you could no longer differentiate between reality and fiction. It's like a sort of sci-fi dystopia in which you would become an avatar. You know? So it's like the deletion of everything you've ever held dear. You know? But I totally agree with katana. And I just, as an aside, I want to mention that katana in Japanese means sword. And I find many of the names of the people involved in all this very, very interesting. So what is the answer to this? I think the answer to this is precisely what we're doing here, because the agenda is to remove our humanity, remove everything meaningful in our lives, and reduce us, as somebody else said, to a commodity. So we're looking for community, and we're looking for the expression of our humanity. So that's precisely what we're doing here, you know? Coming together and exchanging our emotions about this situation. Because I think that you're not going to solve this situation by producing more documents, producing more facts, producing more arguments. You're going to win this through your humanity. So, as Katana said, simply by standing and asserting our humanity is the way that we win, because nothing can stand against us. Now, I also think that this whole process is perfect. And if I look to the way I have changed, transformed over the last 3 years, you could say that this whole experience is something like a near-death experience. And it's a huge opportunity for you to change. When you're threatened with having everything meaningful removed from you, all nature, all art, song, poetry, history, relationships, love, family, friends, sharing, good food, nature, birds, trees, the sky. You know, I mean, the list could go on forever. Yeah, but when you're threatened in this way with having everything taken from you, that makes you realize how much you value all of it. So I watched my mother die, and this is such an important experience. I watched my mother die, and she lay on a hospital bed, and she was dressed in just a hospital, wear, whatever it is. And um, when patients in that hospital, when patients are going to die, they very often put them next to a window where you have a view of the garden. And on this particular day, the sun was streaming in. And so it was a really, really beautiful day. And my mother had always valued her garden and the birds and her home and her car and, everything that she'd built up around her. But when you watch somebody die, they can't take anything with them. They die with nothing. You know? So what's important about our lives is this. This is the only thing of importance. It's not what we own. That has no value. When we're faced with this situation, when we're faced with a near-death experience, you realize that actually none of it matters. None of the material things matter. And what matters is only the relationships. That's it. It's your relationship to the earth, to other people, to your family, to your friends, to nature. And these people who are perpetrating this are very sad people who don't see the value of what's really meaningful in life. They don't understand it. They're materialists. And so they're completely mistaken. And how do you explain to somebody who doesn't see your connection to a flower or the emotion you feel when you see a bird feeding at your feeder, for example, in the garden? You can't explain what you feel. You can't explain that to somebody who doesn't know it, who's never experienced it. These are psychopaths, you know? And so I really believe that the solution to all of this is to be absolutely human and express your total authenticity. And that's what I've found over the last 3 years, is that I didn't want to be in public. I was never on social media. I didn't want to campaign, or I'm quite happy to go back to obscurity tomorrow. Thank you very much. But once you understand the threat, you have no choice but to get involved. And I've realized that all my life, I've always felt that I was like the little boy who shouted out that the emperor has no clothes. I've always been looking on and thinking, well, that's nuts. But I was always shouted down. I was always told, oh no, you're wrong. Oh, it's all just a mistake. Don't just, shut up and go along with it. Yeah. So for one reason or another, I suppose I have just stayed an observer, a spectator. But it was only when this threat arrived on my doorstep that I just realised I had no choice but to get involved, and so I was sort of dragged in unexpectedly. But what this needs is for all of us to actually participate, for all of us to realise that we cannot allow this to go on. There are some, very, very distressing things happening. Just the other day, it was reported from a Berlin hospital that a number of patients with dementia had been actually held down and forcibly injected with this horrible gene therapy product. And a large number of them died. One of them died within 24 hours, and about 7 or 8 of them died about a week later. And it looks as if, another 8 are on their way out. And words can't express how you feel about that. Words can't express how you feel about old people having to leave this life with nobody to hold their hand, with nobody to comfort them, with nobody to reassure them in that state of fear and terror. And that happened to a lot of old people over the last year. And that cannot stand. We can't stand by and let that happen. We can't stand by and let that be done. And a lot of so-called healthcare workers, but a lot of healthcare workers are saying, "Oh well, we can't come forward. We'd lose our jobs." So, if you think about what they're saying, "Oh, I have to inject this elderly person, this defenseless elderly person, with this killer gene therapy product, and inflict horrible suffering and death on them, because otherwise I would lose my job." Now, at Nuremberg, that would not be acceptable. And what we also hear now, what's also been in the news the last couple of days, is the clear intention now to move on to the children. And we have to stop that. We can't let that happen. So what we're talking about here is responsibility. I've never believed in the innocent bystander. Nobody is an innocent bystander. If you have decided to stand by and do nothing, then that was a decision. You made that decision. That was a choice to allow some injustice to happen while you have a quiet life. Masks. A lot of people are wearing masks. I've never worn a mask. I haven't socially distanced and I haven't worn a mask. But masks, Now, a lot of people who know what the situation is are actually choosing to wear a mask, even though they know that it's useless. They know that it doesn't prevent anything. It's like a chain link fence against a mosquito. But they choose to wear the mask because, oh, well, I want a quiet life. I don't want to be aggressed if I go to the supermarket. I don't want trouble with the neighbours. So I'll just wear a mask. Well, if you do that, you're actually complicit in genocide, because old people and children can't go on the internet and find out about the dangers of the masks, how it causes hypoxia and permanent neurological damage. And so all these old people and children, they're actually dropping dead from mask wearing. So if you're wearing a mask, you're complicit in genocide. If you own a mobile phone, you're also complicit in genocide. We've lost 80% of our insects in the last 20 years. This is very much attributable to ubiquitous wireless technology. Now, a lot of people are focused on 5G as if 5G is the threat, and in many ways it is the threat, but people focus on just the health aspect. So they just look at the health aspect and say, well, I don't want to be irradiated, so I'll get myself a protective device, and then, I'm fine because I've got my protective device. Well, again, what are the children going to do as they go to school, or as they sit in schoolrooms saturated in Wi-Fi, which has nothing to do with your home Wi-Fi router? It's far more powerful than your home Wi-Fi router. I mean, you shouldn't expose your children to your home Wi-Fi router, but it's much worse in schools, which is causing sterility. The fact that some people will say to you, oh, but I just have an old mobile phone. Well, if you have an old mobile phone, you're still requiring the telephone companies to put up infrastructure, which they're required to do according to the number of subscribers they have. They are required to put up that infrastructure. And that infrastructure is destroying all life. It's destroying you, it's destroying your children, it's destroying all of nature. It's actually also destroying the buildings. So actually it's degrading your buildings, your bridges, and everything. But the worst threat of 5G, of course, is this, I come back to the NATO document on cognitive warfare. It's 5G that would create a false reality where you could be controlled, other people could be controlled, holograms could be inserted around you, and you would not know it's a hologram. Whether a person, an object, you wouldn't know whether that was real or not. You wouldn't be able to distinguish. So you'd be in a dystopia, but a dystopia of unreality. And you yourself could be controlled through 5G as if you were an avatar in a computer game. So 5G is not just a health threat, it's not just an existential threat, it's actually a sort of, it enables everything about this agenda. It enables the technocracy, the totalitarian control, the surveillance, the warfare as well. So above all, 5G has to be stopped. Now, if you are someone who is purporting to campaign to stop 5G, well, for a start, you shouldn't be campaigning to stop 5G. You should be campaigning to stop all wireless technology, because all wireless technology is a weapon and always was a weapon. It's nothing but a weapon. And if you're not sure it's a weapon, then go and have a look at, in 1975, I believe it was, President Brezhnev tried to get a treaty at the United Nations on controlling the use of this electromagnetic warfare. And that's where we are right now. That's the stage that we're at. So to some extent, I've described some of the threat. But what is the purpose of all of this? I would say that the purpose, the higher purpose of all of this is that humanity has to be awakened. Humanity has to be brought back to an awareness of what is of value in life. And we have to be pushed, shoved, kicked into action, because the last thing we want to do is step up to the plate. We just want a quiet life. We're humans, and that's how we are. So we have to be forced into this situation where we go into action. And I want to deal with the fear aspect, because when you talk about the horrors, this horrendous prospect that faces us, this threat of such a cosmic scale, when you first come across it, I suppose it can inspire a lot of fear. But actually, as soon as you go into action, I call this a trial by fire, because you go beyond the fear, you get beyond it, and it can't touch you. So what's actually happening here is that all of this threat is bringing us to care and to love, to the fullest expression of ourselves and the fullest expression of love. And I've never in my life been in such a, I've never felt such a level of gratitude and appreciation for everything as I do now. And in many ways, I think I've never been happier than I am now. In many ways, I've never felt the kind of joy that I feel now. Because I think if I had lived my life without the opportunity to truly be myself, unapologetically, believing that it is absolutely vital that I should be myself and that I should express myself. Because to not do so would be a betrayal, not just of me, but of humanity. And so I think I can honestly say I wouldn't have missed this opportunity for the world, because I could have lived my life in ignorance, and I could have missed this opportunity to make a contribution and to really come to myself and discover myself. So I think that what's happening is the most amazing gift. I think that we obviously all volunteered to come here at this time and do this. And I have no doubt, I have not a single doubt that we are going to win this. And I'll tell you why we're going to win this. I'll give you 2 examples of why we're going to win this. Some people say, oh, I don't know, what can I do? You know, I'm just me, you know, what can I do? Well, I was invited to help with the production or the creation of the international appeal to stop 5G on Earth and in space. And initially I was asked to edit it, and in the end, not only did I edit it, but I co-authored the non-scientific parts of it and promoted it and administered the translations, and basically it became my life for about 2 years. Now that appeal, we started off as 4 people working on that appeal, and we ended up as 2. And that appeal, I know for a fact, had the opportunity to reach tens of millions of people. So you don't need to say, what can I do? Because that's what 2 people did. Not taking credit for it, it's just an example that you are not powerless. Nobody is powerless. You have all the power in the world that you need. All you need to do is invoke it. And a second example is Julian Rose and his wife Jadwiga Lopata in Poland, who single-handedly launched a campaign to stop GMOs in Poland, and they succeeded. They roused the entire nation, and they succeeded in stopping GMOs coming into Poland. So I really believe that we have everything we need. We are perfect as we are. Even being imperfect means that we're perfect because we're human. So we can do this. And the reason we're doing it is to restore everything of value to our lives after it's been eliminated for so long. Now, fortunately, a lot has not been lost because, for example, at my age, I remember another world before neoliberalism. You know? So fortunately, this has happened at a stage when I think we really do have the opportunity to go back in time and restore things and retrieve that knowledge that we used to have. It's not irretrievable. So, yeah, you know, it's a hard time for all of us, but it's also something incredibly beautiful. And I want to pay tribute to this opportunity that you've provided this evening, because I think this is the answer to express our humanity, to sing, laugh, come together into communities. This is the answer. So if we want to stop this agenda, I would say we need to stop signing petitions or sending emails or letters or protesting or anything else. And we need to get out there and we need to sing and dance and stage plays. And that, by expressing our humanity, that is how we overcome. We overcome through our humanity and through our love. So all we need to do is just be ourselves, be the best of ourselves, and that's how we win. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Claire. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, through our heart, our human heart, and I often feel that sense of, as women and men, we carry the heart, and that's one thing that AI and the machine does not have, is the heart. And they the plans that are being enacted on our earth, unfortunately, do require our consent, and they do require us to negate our hearts, I feel. So for me, that's, I always come back. So I come back to my heart and my spirit and my connection, and let that be what's guiding. And I just want to acknowledge, I mean, that if any of the information that Claire shared is new to anyone, I know that it's ugly. It can be really ugly information, and can be shocking. And I just want to point people to Claire's article. And this is Ava's 2020 time capsule, and this is Claire's article in here, which is For Life on Earth, World Wide Web of Life. And it's just 4 pages, lots of lovely, beautiful pictures. But the references that she's given for this article is 26 pages. So if you question anything that's being shared, we pride ourselves here at Ava at publishing people that really are leading the way with their research, and they do evidence everything they say so that people can follow through with their own research. And that's not to say that you need to follow through with all that research, but if something's jarring for you and you're curious or you want to find out, then in here you will find a wealth. A lot of the women that we've met today have contributed to this edition and brought their unique flavour and gifts.
But if I may add something, I just want to say the scale and scope of this is so huge that it can be overwhelming. You know, people can think, oh no, I can't understand it all. It's just, where would I begin to try to understand it all? You don't need to understand it all. You don't need anything. All you need to do is just go into action as you are. That's it. That nothing else is required.
Yeah, and intuitively feeling what you feel about what's at play. And I saw an article yesterday in, I don't know, it was Telegraph or Independent, one of the mainstream papers here, which is about that the coronavirus can be passed by talking. So the next thing is not to talk to each other. So
I also think it's very important to acknowledge that if you think in terms of energy, you don't want to be stopping something because you're putting energy against energy and that's going to go nowhere. So what we need to do now is we need to visualize what it is that we do want. Leave them with their nonsense because they cannot succeed unless we cooperate. And we need to create the world that we want to see. So that's what we should be doing now. We should be concentrating on the creation aspect and the visualization of the kind of future that we do want.
Yes, absolutely. So our next woman who has also contributed, thank you so much, Claire, thank you, who has also contributed to the magazine is Michelle Graham, and she led us in the meditation at the beginning. And Michelle's a speciality is really around, well, she has such a clear seeing of the complexities of what's at play, and she really shares the wealth of how we can take care of ourselves, how we can stay deeply rooted and connected within ourselves, with our own sacred connection, whilst engaging and seeing what's at play in the world. So we felt it'd be really wonderful to create a space to acknowledge our grief, like you did, Claire, and like you did, Julianne, so clearly. So to give us all a space just to come home to ourselves and to feel what we need to feel in this moment, just to acknowledge the hugeness of what we're sharing here tonight. So I'm going to pass you over.
So Claire, I just want to say thank you so much. We could rely on you and really bring in the heart of this and the enormity and like feeling in everything that you brought, such power and visceral grief. It just felt perfect moment because we know just how much you are holding and how much what you have done, the enormity of this web. Because I think most of us here at Ava, contributors, and maybe most of the people that are here this evening are struggling with this polarity that we're all trying to find some kind of balance within, and we're keeping our spirit rooted, keeping our feet on the earth, somehow taking action in whatever unique ways that we're guided to in at any unique moment. But there seems to be this split that originally, with Isabella trying to collate all of this information that we've been looking at over many years and struggling with, and holding this vision of bringing these women and men and activists together with Sacred Heart, because what we were experiencing when we were speaking out with 5G a few years ago in our small town, and we were experiencing with many other friends across the world what's happening in their small town, is that there's this web that has been created for very long ago, even hundreds of years ago, that sounds very extreme for some people, but we're going to plop that into the pot. But even, let's say, 50 years ago, this was all being managed. And the part that I think that we're all holding here, and Isabella's been really tentatively and beautifully trying to make a bridge here for us all, to step in, to show that reality deniers or conspiracy theorists, or all these hideous words that we're labelled with to silence us, muzzle us. It is enough. We cannot go on with this anymore. We want to show, we want us for all to know that our friends and families who are in this polarity dance with us all together, and like Katana said earlier, you know, we've all got different beliefs and perspectives of this, and I somehow see it as this diamond, and we're all dancing around on these raw edges, holding these different perspectives. But this diamond is here, is within us, and it's wanting to be birthed, but there's this muck, there's this black goo, the reality of black goo that is just in us and around us, and we need to know how to actually clear it from ourselves with our intention, our breath, our knowing, our ancient standing and singing, exactly as you said, Claire, so perfectly. Because we've felt like we've been caught up in all of this, the protesting, realising that, you know, that isn't the answer as well, looking at who's controlled opposition, getting into all the, it's all happening. But the piece that we're holding and you're bringing so strongly, Claire, is that this is conscious. And of course, so many people are not seeing that. They haven't got that understanding. There are many dots to join. And that's why the offering of Ava magazine, I feel, is so precious, because it does bring so many incredible dots that are terrifying, actually, in a very beautiful and sacred way, so that we really, really remember that and hold that true. Because this seeing and our intuition is very delicate, even though incredibly powerful, along with our inner child, our vulnerability. And as Katana said, this taking a stand, it's all that we need to do. But this insidious silencing, just speaking to our friends and family, people aren't managing to do that because they feel so terrified of saying the wrong thing, or looking bad, or looking like a reality denier. And somehow this is a messy path of awakening. This is a messy path of finding our voices. People don't like us sometimes. People love us sometimes. And then, as we all know, then some people don't even know that we exist. So this is a solo journey, ultimately, of our spirit within a silent war with quiet weapons, as Deborah Traveris so poignantly said quite a few years ago. So we thought it would be right moment to just name and feel into our bodies the emotions that are being triggered now, all our different beliefs, our understandings, confusion, devastation, terror, rage, and taking a moment again to come back into the silence. And I'm just going to offer just a moment, just a few minutes. I'm going to call in Tom and Isabella to come into this space now. Bring this polarity that we're all holding with our friends and family and within us. Is this true? Can it possibly be this bad? And at the same time, this is something that we have all come here to expand out of. And for me, on my journey, dealing with my feelings and emotions, it's ultimately been the sound, song, the expression of emotions in the most simple way. And that's taken me out of the confusion. So if I find myself walking around the kitchen and realising that I'm in confusion and terror, actually, but yet suppressed, then I'll stamp my feet, shake my body, and let out a sound of just any kind of sound, actually, but coming from my belly, so I can clear it immediately and let myself know consciously that I've been trapped by this claw of, it's actually the reptilian brains, the fascia, grabbing hold of the fascia of the whole body and contorting and then we're staying in the mind and the head, and we're trying to find answers, and then we're in the fight. So I just want to invite you now to just come in again before we go on to other singers. And remember this sphere of intention that we created at the beginning. It comes from our intention, our breath, and our belly. There's ambers, fire, glow of source energy within every cell of ourselves. And I'm just going to simply ask us to start releasing our breath, sighing, and then making sound, and allowing confusion, grief, rage to very gently at first to just make a sound, any sound. So let's go. And just very gently let yourself quiver or bring the images and just let it all go into the earth. Simple sound, breath, intention. I just wanted to finish on, as Claire was speaking, I had the image of a film, a Hollywood film called The Last Lindsay, which was a favourite film that we watched with my daughter when she was young. She was about 10. And a story of an agenda trying to take over the earth, and the people come from the future with all their gas masks and self-protection clothes on. And I'm sure the film's got lots of mind control and all sorts of bad stuff in it, but it's also, they like to tell us the truth in plain sight. And at the end of the film, the little girl who's extremely psychic and just very beautiful, she's a very young girl, bring in the innocence, and she had this gorgeous little rabbit that she it's a long story, but she had this gorgeous little rabbit that she absolutely loved, and it spoke to her. So it was all about telepathy and the heart. And at the end of the day, it was about the tears. It's her tears, the innocent child's tears, that fell into the belly of the rabbit. And for me, that's what you're bringing, Claire, and what we're hoping that we can all remember, that even though that we want to stand strong and that we want to sing and that we stay in this emptiness and vastness of our pure spirit, that the learning and the cultivation of how to transform our terror and our grief and our rage, and that purity of our tears at the heart, is what saved us. So thank you. And
Thank you, Michelle. So we're gonna pass over to Layla Elizabeth Risden, who is a dear old sister of mine. We have grown our children together, and our children are like family to each other. And so she's going to sing with her husband, Matthew, and together they are part of a band called Agent Lala. So I can hear them somewhere. So they've unmuted themselves.
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah. I'm going to mute myself
You're
and
muted.
pass over.
You're muted. Yeah.
Can you hear us okay, Isabella? We've got some internet issues. Can you hear us?
Yes, and see you.
Great. And see us. Great. Thank you so much for this space, Ava and Isabella. Isabella, it's wonderful, wonderful to be here. And we've got a couple of songs that we'd love to share. So much richness tonight. It has been overwhelming, and thanks so much for really helping us drop back into our bodies. Really beautiful. Thanks, Michelle, to be sitting in our bodies. I think that was Luke. I just saw my son. My son he's helping us. Here's to the children who can support, as so many other sisters have shared tonight, with our limited technology ability. We've got, luckily, a child who can make it work for us and therefore get the benefits of this. Okay, so our first song, it's actually Isabella's pick. And it's a song called Everybody Needs Your Love. So I think for this evening it's a beautiful idea that we are all just perfect as we are, and it's just our love. It's just our love that we need to be bringing, and our love that we need to be sharing with the world, being exactly our simple human selves. And it was also written as a prayer and an appeal to the masculine. So that was an appeal to, at the time, a stuck masculine energy that we were hoping to appeal to through the metaphor of a river and a flow and a receiving, an opening to flow. So that also seemed very right, to be appealing to the divine masculine, to hear our call, to hear the cry of the mother, and join as divine feminine energies as we flow to the inevitable victory. Everybody needs your love.
I was wondering where you hide. Where do you hide? I was wondering when you cry. When do you cry? Tears rolling down, tears rolling down. This is a real life, just like the ones you've read about. I was wondering where you run, 'cause I've seen you running. I was looking for your smile, but the sun had gone in. Night falling down, night falling down. Everything's gone inside, everything's gone underground to get out of the cold. Why must you hide your love away? Did someone go and tell you life was easier that way? And why must you hide your love away? To get the thing you want, you've got to give that thing away. The river must flow through you. Rivers only flow one way. Flow one way. I saw your picture on the wall. On the wall you were smiling. I was wondering where the sky meets the sea, 'cause I was wondering if you were like me. Doors closing now, doors closing now. Into the room where familiar faces gather round to look at you sideways in disdain, to push you outside into the rain. You don't have to
to see all your faces. Thank you. So our next song, we hope to bring some inspiration and comfort for the time that we are in. It was written for a dear friend of ours who is escaping some of the darkest energies on the planet that can affect young women. But it has also been an inspiration to other people who are facing challenging times. So let's sing it for everyone. And it's called The Dark Before the Dawn.
Ukulele. Words are going to be an issue. Okay.
Yeah. And as Isabella knows too well, I don't often play the ukulele in public, so I'm embracing my vulnerability. My temperature has gone up with that disclosure. Oh, the wonders of the menopause. So I now have to remove items of clothing. Dark before the dawn.
Shine like the sun when you're done. When it's done, you're gonna shine like the sun. You're gonna fly like the moon real soon. Real soon, you're gonna fly like the moon. Oh, my sweet child, hold on, hold on. Oh, my sweet child, as I wander over under an exile from my home, seeking love and understanding, the peace for which I mourn, in the dark before the dawn. We're gonna know what we feel when it's real. When it's real, we're gonna know what we feel. We're gonna know we are one when the time comes, as I wander over under an exile from my home, seeking love and understanding, the peace for which I mourn, in the dark before the dawn. Me and you, we're gonna know what is true. Oh, my sweet child, hold on, hold on. Oh, my sweet child, as I wander over, under, an exile from my home, seeking love and understanding, the peace for which I mourn, in the dark before the dawn, in the dark before the dawn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And also, I'm Welsh, and Matthew is Welsh by marriage. So we are holding for the return of the ancients and the return of the Celts. And thank you so much for all the amazing sharing. So beautiful and rich.
Thank you. That was lovely.
So, yeah, thank you, Layla. Thank you. Thank you, Luke. And so lovely to see both together as well, holding that masculine and feminine piece for us all. So our next and final act, our last act sharing tonight, is by the wonderful Isa. And Isa is Isa is the funnest, quirkiest, bright artist friend. She's just a joy and to have in my life, and yeah. So
I am a bleeding woman, and I know the pain of death. Every moon I bleed, and mourn life. I am a bleeding woman, and I know this pain of grief. I feel the tremor running through my body, and I transform to love. I am a bleeding woman, mother's, mother's, mother's body, as they bled their blood of grief. Thank you. I was inspired to sing that song that came to me on a hill when I was bleeding a few months ago, and it's improvised every time, and I'm bleeding now, and there's been a lot of mothering talk and grief and love, so hopefully that was self-explanatory. Thank you. And then yesterday, a friend, brother, wonderful man named who is hopefully on the call, sent this song out, and I've tried to learn it today. I'll have to play it a little bit in my ear to make sure I remember, because I thought even though it's not fully finished, it needs to be out there because it's great. A new folk song for our times. Oh, Sugary Bumby. Here it is. I'm gonna play it in my ear while I sing. Can you still hear me? I hope so. Oh, they try to take our dignity away, yet our hearts only grow a little stronger by the day. And all their vanity and hate will ne'er be seen again. We'll all be washed away, and they'll never take our dignity away. Oh, they try to break our spirit with their lies, yet every lie was witnessed by unforgiving eyes. And every lie will be corrected, every wrong made right, all in good time. And they'll never break our spirit with their lies. No one knows the reason why they hate us so. No one knows the reason why they seek to bring us low. Yet every man and woman with a beating heart must know they have to go. No one knows the reason why they hate us so. Oh, they try to take our dignity away, yet our hearts only grow a little stronger every day. And all their vanity and hate will never be seen again, all washed away. And they'll never take our dignity away. This is this song. It's called This. Fly, fly above, rest away on the green. See beyond the clouds, speak your truth out loud. Love what you need to love. Nothing is permanent. Slice open, break through tapestry, crack down walls of disharmony.
'Cause this is the turning of the tide. Have pride that this is the coming of our age. Don't be afraid. This is the raising of the curtain. Be certain that this has all been prophesied. Take off your disguise. Stomach is turning, it knows what is wrong. Awake your true learning, unite all in song, cause destruction and hate cannot dictate when devotion, emotion is causing commotion. See beyond skin, see through labels and lies. Let the light of love in, see the truth with wide eyes. Cast away doubts, keeping chains on your soul. Trust your body and shout. Let miracles unfold. 'Cause this is the turning of the tide. Have pride that this is the coming of our age. Release your rage. This has the coming, raising of the curtain. Be certain that this has all been prophesied. Take off their disguise. Thank you. So funny without the applause. When you were like, energy. Thank you so much. Thank you, Yisa. Thank you, Ava. Thank you, everybody, for talking. It was incredible. So you gave me all the energy I needed.
That was so satisfying. Thank you, Isabella. That is the end of our scheduled sharing, and we felt that that was the note to end on. Absolutely love that rendition, and every time I see you share that song, it's just uniquely spectacular. So wonderful.